My brothers, my sisters, the Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus took Peter, John, and James and went up the mountain to pray. While he was praying, his face changed in appearance, and his clothing became dazzling white. And behold, two men were conversing with him, Moses and Elijah, who appeared in glory and spoke of his exodus that he was going to accomplish in Jerusalem. Peter and his companions had become overcome by sleep, but became fully awake. They saw his glory and the two men standing with him. As they were about to part with him, Peter said to Jesus, "Master, it is good we are here. Let us make 3 tents, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." But he did not know what he was saying. While he was still speaking, a cloud came and cast a shadow over them, and they became frightened when they entered the cloud. Then from the cloud came a voice that said, "This is my chosen son. Listen to him." After the voice had spoken, Jesus was alone. He felt silent and did not at that time tell anyone what they had seen. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
I have a story from Father John Powell. He's a Jesuit theologian and professor over at Loyola University in Chicago. And he tells a story about the first day of a class that he was teaching in faith. And he meets this new student named Tommy. And Tommy arrives with long hair, right down to his shoulders, and a real bad attitude. He knew he shouldn't put him in a box. He knew he shouldn't judge him, but he did. He's human. He just couldn't get over his appearance. Maybe it was the hair and the attitude, but he appeared to be just a troubled kid. And he also was the atheist in the faith class, challenging and questioning the existence of God all through the semester. Well, the both of them got through the semester, and it's the last day of the class, and he's handing in the final exam. And Tommy says to the professor, he says, "I have one more last question for you. Do you think I'll ever find God?" And the professor answered him, he said, "No." And Tommy seemed a little stunned. He said, "I thought that was the product you were pushing." And he started to walk away, but the professor had a few last-minute things to say. "I don't think you'll ever find God, but I'm absolutely certain he will find you." Time passed. Tommy graduated. And soon after the graduation, the professor had learned that Tommy had been diagnosed with terminal cancer. And before he could search him out, Tommy unexpectedly came to visit him at his office. He was very thin. The long hair was gone. And for the first time, he saw Tommy without an attitude. His eyes were bright. He was confident. He was filled with joy. And the professor asked him, based on the circumstances, "Why are you so happy?" And Tommy said, "It could be worse. I could be someone who had no values or no ideals. I could be someone who just thinks that booze and seducing women and making money, those are the real important things in life. But when I got the news that I was dying, I really started to think about life. I really started to think about God. And I wanted God to help me. I wanted him to heal me, but he didn't. And then one day I just woke up, and instead of praying, I just quit. I decided that I didn't care about God. I didn't care about the afterlife. I just didn't care about anything." But then I remembered something that you had said in the class. You said that the essential sadness is to go through life without loving. And it would be equally sad if you left the world without telling those that you love them. So I began with the hardest one of all, my dad. So one night after dinner, he told him without warning, he said, "I love you, and I just wanted you to know that." His father did something he had never did before. He cried, and he hugged him. And Tommy told the professor that to get that "I love you" back from his dad and the physical hug that he had never had was one of the most important moments in his life. And he had that awesome time with his mother and his sister and other people close to him. But his only regret was that it needed to be in the shadow of death to experience it. Tommy continued one last thing he needed to tell the professor. He says, "I remember what you told me when I passed in that exam, that you didn't think that I would ever find God. One day, I turned around," he said, "and God was there. He didn't come when I pleaded with him. He was there. God found me even when I stopped looking." The professor was stunned by the reality of what he was looking at, by the reality of what he was in the presence of, by the reality that Tommy had been transformed, that Tommy not only found God, they found each other. The professor really felt bad that he had really harshly judged Tommy, but he had so much gratitude to God for sending Tommy back to him, back to find him, to actually educate and to teach him a lesson, a very big lesson. During the final months of his life, Tommy had the courage to open himself up, to tell people that he had loved them. And because of that journey, Tommy had a real experience, a real significant encounter with God. In reality, he was transfigured by God. He took a risk and by doing so, opened himself up to God's love. You see, the transfiguration is not just something that Jesus and a few of his disciples experienced on a mountaintop. We may seem that we're sometimes on our own mountaintop, maybe in the clouds, maybe sometimes alone, maybe frightened, maybe distant from Jesus, but we're not alone. And I can tell you this for certain. Nothing that we can do, nothing will keep and stop Jesus from loving us. Listen to him. Jesus can transfigure us. So the question for us is this: are we open to risking love to find God? Jesus hasn't moved away from us. Have we moved away from him?